The most effective lie the enemy told me was that becoming a Christian meant that I had to live a life of perfection. Works-based religion taught me from birth that I had to earn God's approval, as they put little emphasis on Jesus' purpose in coming to the earth. This enabled the enemy to isolate and alienate me in my own mind, using my inability to achieve any degree of perfection as a tool to make me give up any hopes of ever being able to please God. As a result, this works-based religion served more purpose in pushing me deeper into the world than it ever did in leading me to Jesus. I actually believed the enemy's lie, that people could only become Christians by totally and completely conquering the sin nature on their own. I knew that this was impossible for me to achieve, so I gave up any hopes and efforts of ever being in rightful standing with God. The enemy had me right where he wanted me, isolated within myself, hopeless and feeling all alone. Over time, despite being raised from birth to believe that I could never understand the Bible's message unless first the leaders of this works-based cult interpreted it for me, I began to read it on my own. I knew nothing of the four Gospels, much less the message contained within. When I read John 3:16 on my own, absent of the false interpretations I had been raised in, I saw its message much clearer. For God loved the world in this way. He gave his one and only Son so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. The words "everyone who believes" seem to lift off the pages. If I could obtain any degree of righteousness on my own, then why didn't God specify this in this verse? What a relief it is when one comes to the revelation that Jesus did all of the work and his perfection is imputed to all believers when we come to faith. Suddenly, I no longer carried the burden of not being good enough for God. I understood for the first time that God already knew that I was imperfect, and because of this, he sent Jesus that through my faith I could be in right standing before him. Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. All of you, take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light."